Plastic. It's a problem. Ask any scientist, look at any beach. I took notice when I covered a whale's death on the beach and learned that man-made items were found in one of its stomachs. And then when I found a dead pelican tangled up in all kinds of fishing line during another story. So what's going on here? Well, I found out the problem is a lot bigger and even smaller than I thought. The ocean. It's where we work. It's where we play. It's where living creatures live. Until something like this happens.
Okay to drop.
It's also where researchers like Ed McGinley
And we're at the end of our rope.
and Rachel Cecil of Flagler College are studying.
Our interactions with the ocean are not healthy.
First coast beaches may not look like beaches around the world that have layers of plastic trash on them, but our beaches do have plastic that people leave behind and other people pick up during beach cleanups.
Lots of bags mostly, some styrofoam, and a lot of just plastic wrappings.
That's the kind of plastic called macroplastics.
So I've got various bags of plastic debris.
The big pieces that you can easily see.
Whales, sea turtles are known to eat pieces of plastic accidentally when they're feeding in their normal routine.
Maya McGuire is a plastics researcher in Flagler County for the University of Florida.
The problem with plastic is it doesn't biodegrade.
But they do break apart into really tiny pieces, some of them microscopic.
So some of the plastics we find are very tiny. We refer to those as microplastics when they're less than 5 millimeters in size.
They can be little beads or tinier beads from cosmetic products, or even smaller, like little fibers from polyester clothing.
That green piece is probably some kind of plastic debris.
Microplastics are what the professor and his student are looking for.
Good to drop?
We're trying to figure out, do we see different levels of plastic at different water depths? All right, we are at the end.
Off the St. Augustine Inlet, they are gathering water samples.
And then we send this little weight down, and it snaps it closed. Whatever depth it was at, that water's now trapped in there.
So this is the water they've collected just from offshore, and looking at it, it looks clear, but the scientists are pretty sure when they get it back to the lab, they'll find microplastics in it. Indeed, they did. From those samples, this is an image of just one of the many plastic fibers they found, only about a millimeter long.
Well, you can't see it with your naked eyes.
So what's the big deal about microplastics? Well, say a fish eats that microplastic.
And then a fish can eat that fish, and then that fish can eat that fish, and then we could eat that fish. And how does that affect us?
That's not all. Plastics are like magnets and attract chemicals and toxins.
So not only are the organisms ingesting the plastic, but they're also ingesting all the chemicals that go with the plastic. The toxins that are on there can be absorbed into the fish.
Or the crabs, or whatever seafood we eat, or whatever air we breathe, because plastic fibers are in polyester.
You know, sloughing off of our clothing.
So the $50 million question is, are we eating plastic? Are we getting chemicals from the plastics? We know that pretty much everywhere people have looked for plastics, including in drinking water, they are finding them. What are the potential impacts on people? We don't have a clue.
What we do know is it's ending up in our ocean, our water, and its animals. Like this big pod of dolphins we saw.
Oh, look at that.
Those dolphins were a reminder of what's in the water that we can see.
We've never seen a display quite like that.
And what's in the water that we can't see that could be hurting them and us. So what can be done? Well, tomorrow we'll dive into what you as one person can do to use less plastic. Simple, easy ways to make a difference. Jessica Clark, First Coast News, on your side.
Now, weather with your First Coast News storm experts, powered by AC Designs.
No, I think Tim said it best. We're basically eating our own trash.
Yeah, that really gives
So,
you a new
makes you think.
perspective.
Especially, at least in my viewpoint, when you see it piled up,
I can almost imagine, well, if we could just shovel it all up. But then when it's that small, it becomes this, it seems almost insurmountable problem. Hopefully not. Interesting. I guess Jessica's going to have more for us.
Yeah,
She will tomorrow night.
Plastic trash and even microscopic plastic. I mean, a real concern in our First Coast waterways.
That's right. I mean, even this, you take out the plastic fork and knife to eat your burger with or whatever, and you think, oh, this is no big deal. But actually, it is a big deal. And this week, Jessica Clark's been talking to us, even in the newsroom. She's been challenging us about this. She has all kinds of very important information about plastics in our lives.
Actually using the other scope.
Mike and Cindy Allier
Thanks, babe.
have a sailboat.
And then we'll bring the strap around.
And they donate its use to researchers.
We take students out, we take professors out.
To enable, educate, and inspire marine science education.
Good to drop.
On this day, the Alliers have plastic researchers aboard
We are
studying microplastics
at the end.
off the coast of St. Augustine. Plastic pollution is a passion of theirs.
I realize what a problem it is. Real visible.
Cindy's turning point was when she saw baby sea turtles like this one with tiny pieces of plastic found in its gastrointestinal system.
It has certainly changed the way Mike and I do a lot of things. You know, we recycle like crazy now.
More than recycling, she also wanted to reduce the amount of plastic she uses in her everyday life. And maybe you do too. Of course, there's simple things that you can do, like not using plastic bottles and instead using metal cups. More and more restaurants are allowing you to refill these.
Going to reusable grocery bags was very easy.
Researchers estimate it can take up to 1,000 years for a plastic bag to break down.
And I refuse straws.
Plastic straws don't degrade and cannot be recycled. University of Florida plastics researcher Maya McGuire
I can just use this instead.
uses reusable food containers for lunches and even to-go boxes at restaurants.
It's just a metal container.
Microplastics that find their way into animals' stomachs are also found in cosmetics.
Which means things like deodorant and mascara and glittery makeup, eyeshadows, blushes can still legally contain plastic. And on the label, it will have the word polyethylene. This is the most common type of plastic that is used in personal care products.
Also, balloons released into the air become death traps for animals.
The color comes off of those Mylar balloons, and when you take away all the color, you're left with a clear, looks almost just like a clear plastic bag, and it's much easier to see how a turtle can mistake this for a jellyfish.
And sea turtles love to eat jellyfish.
And unfortunately, if what it eats is a plastic balloon, that's something it can't digest.
Scientists say there are many other ways to honor loved ones, such as planting a tree or a bush. But still, plastic can be good.
Especially if you think about medical things, plastic has allowed us to make so many advances. And I don't advocate completely eliminating plastic.
But McGuire does believe each person can use fewer plastics in their daily lives.
Come to the right, starboard.
Mike and Cindy Allier try to, even though it's tough.
It is hard to get away from them.
And they've also found their own way to advance plastic research.
Hope we can make a difference.
All while sailing on the planet where they want less plastic pollution. A few more everyday items that I learned about that are plastic. These plastic forks and spoons and knives, you can't recycle these. And these bags that are made out of plastic, this was from a loaf of bread. If you can pull it, you can recycle it, but you can't recycle it by just putting it in the bin at your house. You have to take it to a store that recycles plastic bags. You probably have more questions about, well, what can I recycle and what can't I recycle? We are going to start a Facebook Live discussion right now. So go to First Coast News' Facebook page. That plastic researcher you saw in the story, she's here at First Coast News. She has those answers to your questions. We'll be right back.
plastic is such a big part of our lives. We use it every day, but scientists say so much of it becomes pollution. It harms the environment, it hurts animals, and ultimately hurts us too.
And tonight it really hits home. We're putting ourselves at First Coast News to the test to see how we can be more environmentally responsible. Here's Jessica Clark.
Plastics and trash cans, wasted paper, aluminum cans in the waste bins. We have no recycling program here at First Coast News, and I knew something could be better. Let's go upstairs, because that's a big kitchen. I invited Tara Dodson to First Coast News to give us some advice.
All single use. Everything in there is single use.
She is a sustainability consultant with Full Circle Natural Resource Management.
You could go to paper or bamboo stirrers.
She helps companies that want to become more earth-friendly, and in the long run...
You have saved companies money. I have, yeah.
More about that later.
This is in the trash, and that's recyclable.
She literally went through our trash to investigate.
Now we're getting down and dirty. Yeah. Look at this. This whole bin is recyclable.
Okay, let's go to the studio. So these are our recycling bins. Here at First Coast News, there is one man who recycles these newscast scripts.
Recycling is by far the best approach that you can take right now.
First Coast News is one of many companies analyzing its sustainability issues.
These are our soup to goes.
Steve LeClaire and his business partners at Beachcomber Restaurant in St. Augustine Beach did away with all their styrofoam and plastic products, and
we switched all to steel trays for serving.
They stack better in the dishwasher than plates do.
Therefore, we're using 1/3 of our footprint of water and detergent.
It seems like every person who has made these big changes has had a turning point. For LeClaire,
I saw a picture of a tortoise, and it was like split almost into 2 pieces because it got caught with some type of rubber, like a band. It was horrifying.
Heart-wrenching moments can lead to... It's all about behavior change.
Behavior change.
But in the business world, it can come down to the money, too. Dodson says in some cases, recycling more saves companies money because they're paying for less trash space in a landfill. So it'll cost us
less to recycle than it would to just do straight trash. It just costs the employees time, which is minimal.
In Duval County, like many other places, recycling pickup has to be paid for by the company. Dodson says it's all about changing priorities.
It's all about just thinking it through.
Thinking and acting, and in the long run, changing the world around us by putting less pollution in it. After analyzing what we do here at our station, I am happy to announce that First Coast News has chosen to start a recycling program. Our motto here is help make the First Coast a better place to live. And we feel this is one way to do that. Jessica Clark, First Coast News, on your side.